And so the only seeming choice is to stop, to just be, to watch, rest as the openness, and recognize that if there is awareness, then somehow the grace is that the awareness is who you are. That if awareness is here, the only reason that you know awareness is here is because you are awareness. And so it is to stop, just be here, find the awareness, and know that this is real, this is true, and nothing else is. If there is something aware of whatever is unfolding, then the grace is that you are the awareness in truth. It's not to try to understand. It's not to try to understand anything. Not to try to understand how it all works. Why is this happening? If we start delving into the quagmire of Maya to try to understand how it all works, we will get lost. It is just to be aware, to be simply aware of whatever is unfolding. This is where the only choice it is to be yourself or be lost. To be here, be aware, to stop, to be. In being the being, there is a remaining open. It's natural. Be quiet. No commentary needed. No narrative needed. No need to understand. No need to process or work it out. It is just to stop, to be. Be the vast openness. Be quiet. Find the awareness that the grace is that awareness is here, aware of whatever is unfolding. And where awareness is, you are. The simplicity of being cannot understand conceptually that there is only the self. There is only one. And you are that one. You can try all of the techniques and methods in the worldly play, but nothing will bring you to yourself but being yourself. It is just to find out who you are in truth. To find out who you are in truth. And when you have an essence, knowing, when you have an inkling, a glimpse, a taste, it is just to rest in this truth, the truth of who you are. Do not try to work anything out. It is just to be, to simply be. True nature. The simple one true nature is just the being, just the awareness of this moment. Has nothing to do with what is happening, has nothing to do with the play of the world. Freedom is to know yourself. To know yourself brings complete freedom from suffering, because you know who you are and you know that there is only the self. The mind will constantly be looking for ways to try to understand. The mind is looking for awakening or enlightenment according to my character, according to my tendencies, right? The me is looking for something that fits me, suits me, keeps me comfortable. But that is not what this is about. Cannot even begin to understand with the mind that this is about the dissolution of the me. Of course, the mind thinks the dissolution of the me sounds terrible, but it is divine kindness. It is freedom. We are speaking about freedom from the illusion of bondage. We are speaking about freedom from suffering, freedom from all that keeps a sense of limitation in place. It is to be fully undone. And when we come to a maturity, we find that we are praying to be undone, praying to be unraveled, praying even for disappointment, praying for that which humbles away all of the egocentric patterning, all of the ways that the mind is so concerned with me. Of course, this is learned and it is innocent, but it is to see this in clear light in order to see through this and to see through how all of these tendencies are just a huge distraction. And if the mind is given, if it's given attention, if it's given an inch, it will take a mile, as they say, and it will keep taking, it will keep taking. And at some point there is a maturing deeply enough where there is the stop that says no, no, to the continuation of the egocentric patterning. No to the mind and its wants. No to the ideas that the mind wants confirmed. There is a maturation that happens that brings us to say yes to the self, yes to the being, yes to what is true, an ability to discern, an ability to discriminate between that which is real and that which is unreal, and to stay aligned with what is real, and to say no to the unreal, knowing that there is nothing to explain or justify or work out about the unreal. It's not about tidying up the unreal. It's about recognizing it's just not real. It just doesn't warrant any attention. Mm-hmm. It is to give the wholehearted attention only to the awareness that is aware. Anything that you are aware of is not yourself. Anything that you are aware of is not yourself. Even the personality, even the natural characteristics, none of it is reality. The body, the mind, the story, the life, none of it is reality. The only thing that is real, and it takes to know this beyond question in order to be able to be free in the divine play, let's say, to know, because it's a knowing of what it all is. It takes to know without question the truth of who you are. And so it is to endeavor to know the truth of who you are, to recognize that it is not a doing. There's nothing that can be done. You cannot try harder. You cannot do anything according to the mind's possible realm of understanding. But you can be here, and you can keep pointing the attention to what is true. Keep pointing the attention of awareness to rest as awareness. Awareness just being aware. The simplicity of watching. Everything is still happening. The whole life is still unfolding. It is just to watch, to be still, to be silent, quiet, and watch. Do not try to work it out. Let us say the picture changes according to where you are resting. If there is something inside, something as a pattern of consciousness that needs to be seen in order to be undone, a reflection of it will come in the life. But you cannot resolve it in the life. You have to resolve it within you, right? It's like looking at yourself in the mirror and trying to make adjustments to your hair, or comb your hair, or make adjustments, shave, or put makeup to the mirror, right? You're going to just draw on the mirror. You have to go in. You cannot make the change in the reflection, right? It's exactly the same in the life. You cannot make the change in the mind. You cannot make the change in the play of the world by doing something. The change comes inside. The change comes through just resting as the awareness, being quiet, being still, watching. We could say this is where the unraveling of the feelings, the sensation, meeting yourself. This is a simple sensory form of inquiry where you use feeling the feelings as a way to avert the attention from the mind and the learned habit to just think about it all. You come to the feelings, you come to just feel the feelings. When you are truly feeling, you cannot think at the same time. If the attention is with the feelings, you cannot think simultaneously. If thinking is happening, you have moved to the mind and away from the feelings. So you come to the feelings. Come to the feelings to unravel, to alchemize, to free the knots, the tangles. It is a quality of surrender that says, I am willing to be undone. I'm willing to meet this. And this is where divine surrender happens, when there is a willingness to feel, a willingness to be humbled, a willingness to be crushed, a willingness to be undone in the name of love, in the name of the name, which is the divine, in the name of the mother, in the name of love itself, in the name of the glory, a willingness to be undone. As these words come, it is not for the mind even to jump on board and to say, yes, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try harder. It's to feel in the flow of grace, to feel in your heart what comes alive, the resonance of truth. Because this is where the change happens. The change doesn't happen on the to-do list. Have you ever noticed that? You can write out the list and you find yourself writing it again and again, and oh, what a surprise. The things that I'm going to do to improve myself, to be good, to be in alignment, to be austere, to make a difference. Have you ever noticed that you've been writing the same to-do list your whole life in some flavor or another, but in essence, what you are going to do to be good, to be right, to be whole, the to-do list, it's always the same. It's always the same. And it's been the same the whole life. We're not speaking of the subtle functions of going to the grocery store, taking the cat to the vet. Of course, those things happen. We're speaking about those fundamental ideas that we have in the mind that says this is when these things change, then I will be good, I will be right, I will be enough, I will feel happy, I will feel fulfilled. This, but that list is not the way to know yourself. The way to know yourself is to just be here. See the to-do list, smile at it, and know that change doesn't happen in the world. Change happens when the attention points towards that which is true. There is a certain quality, of course, that grace has to flow, and there is a maturing that happens. But it is all about the resonance. It's all about the resonance. It's about the attunement. When there's an attunement, the true landing of truth happens in the resonance as an attunement. It lands in recognition. It doesn't land in the mind. You don't get rooted or anchored in anything mental. You get rooted into the resonance of knowing. What is this resonance? The resonance is the aliveness. It's the field that's the magnetic pull of the self into itself. It's that which is calling you, pulling you alive. It's the aliveness in the presence. And it has this resonant quality. There's nothing else like it because it's not a thing. It's the aliveness, the pulse. It's just the aliveness of life, alive to itself. It's not a thing. It's not something you can find. Not with the mind. It's like you fall into the resonance. It's like a field, a river, an aliveness. You fall in and it's unquestionable. Because what is happening when you fall into the resonance, there is an attunement. It's that tuning fork. Truth is a certain frequency, and when you align with that frequency, you're aligning because you are that frequency. You're attuning your own nature. You're becoming aligned in the oneness of what is. It's not someone becoming aligned, because when there's alignment, you leave that one behind to be the one. You leave the mind behind in true attunement. So it's to notice when you feel yourself here now and the resonance is alive, the presence, the knowing is here. There's no one here. There's just presence. In the absence of someone, you are truly here. In the absence of the mind, here you are. But where are you? What are you? You are the being that just is. You are the simple presence of being that just is. And it doesn't matter what the picture of the life looks like. It doesn't matter what is happening. It doesn't matter whether you are sitting in a scene that is great glory or great turmoil. When you are resting in true nature, you just are. You just are. You have completely escaped any attachment and identification with the play as it is unfolding. And you know who you are, and you know that you are untouched. And as you know who you are and you know that you are untouched, it is to confirm that which is untouched, invincible, never touched, never disturbed in any way. It's to confirm this. It's not to then try to work out, yeah, but how do I live my life now? Because that's an immediate return to the mind. You don't need to work anything out. You just live this truth. Just being, just being, just being. The self knows how to live. Life knows how to live. Let's say it's what has been happening all along. But it is life living itself without the tension of a mind that is co-opting and micromanaging everything. And it's this layer, this overlay of micromanagement, thinking, organizing, judging, having opinions, constantly chattering. It's life without the overlay, life without that voice. Freedom, life without that voice. Silence. When you feel this truth, it's unquestionable. What is aware of it? What is aware of it all, the whole crazy play? This is why we might pray for challenge to arise, because when challenge arises, disappointment, challenging situations arise, it brings us to ask the deeper questions. It unravels all of the places that we're trying to hold on. And we don't identify with the story. We just meet the feelings, the sensations. You just meet the aliveness of the field. And you recognize in the face of seeming adversity that you are not touched in truth. Before the mind says, oh, but that's very well, how I have to deal with this, no, you don't. But the mind will never believe it. The mind will always think, oh, but the mind is absolutely committed to staying alive and believing that it has some kind of meaning. So it will constantly, oh, but I need to reply to that email. I need to return the phone call. I need to say what's going to happen. I need to make a decision. No, you don't. Not at all. The mind will never believe this. So you just come to the being and you watch and you see that it all happens. You even watch that the character is playing out everything that needs to happen. But you as the being, you're not touched. It's all just happening. Life goes on. Life continues to play. But without you, without the me micromanaging, without that layer, that overlay that chatty Kathy, right? Without that one, or let's say a chatty Ken, a chatty Kathy or a chatty Ken, right? Without that one, freedom, being yourself, living life without the chatter. The self, knowing the self, knowing that there is only the self. So the choice to just watch, to be still and watch. We're not even speaking about the body being still. We're speaking about being the stillness. Being the stillness. That in this moment which is not moving. Because that in this moment which is not moving is that which is in every moment not moving. And this is the stillness. This is the silence of being that is underlying all activity, the whole play. And once you are familiar in the knowing of yourself as this stillness, as this silence, as the being, then there is a knowing that whatever is playing on the surface, the being is here. The being is here, untouched, unmoved in any way. The immovable, invincible, pure, immaculate being that you are. Who you are is before everything. You are before everything. Everything. You are that, the self that just is, before everything. And this self that just is simple awareness, an open field of awareness that is just simply aware by nature, essence nature. So let us say it is about not identifying or being attached to anything, watching the things, right? Watching the things, and thoughts are things. Mm-hmm. Watching the objects of experience, watching the content, just watching the content, becoming adept in your true nature, just watching, just simply observing. You can see everything. You can see the thoughts, you can see the body, you can see the character that you have believed yourself to be. And it is to notice that if you can see the character, then you are not identified there as awareness, you are vasta. Just to notice, you are aware of the character. Where are you watching from? Where are you as awareness? What is this awareness? How do you know awareness is here? Let's be very clear. Because sometimes the mind will say, well, maybe it's somewhere inside. No, we've already confirmed that as awareness, awareness is aware of the mind, yes. Awareness is aware of the body, yes. Awareness is aware of thoughts. Awareness is aware of story. Awareness is aware of the character, the narrative. So we've already seen that if awareness is aware of that one you thought you were, awareness is not inside that one. So if awareness is not inside that one, where is awareness? If you're aware of the character, you're aware of the mind and the body, you can see that one. You can see the character that you play in the world. You can see the costume that you wear. Mm-hmm. Can see that. Where are you seeing from? What are you as awareness? You are emptiness. You are the spacious, infinite field that just is, simply aware, vaster than anything, unbounded, unlimited, not attached or identified to any single thing, the vast spaciousness, just like the sky, just like the sky, infinite, unbounded, everywhere, undefinable, not a thing. You see how the sky is not a thing? Is this handful of sky any different from that sky up there? Of course not. Ponder, ponder, contemplate, not with the mind, but curiously. What is this awareness that you are? Where are you? Right? It's to follow your own consciousness, to be consciously aware of what you are, where you are, and to confirm in direct experience that you are not the mind, you are not the body. And once we have ascertained you are not the person, then it is to get so deeply curious with your own consciousness. You know you are here. Yes. How do you know you are here? Where do you go to confirm that you are here? To notice that you just feel your own presence. You might feel in this moment, well, but I feel like I'm someone that's confirming that. So let's just check again. But are you not aware of that one? Are you not vaster than that one? Are you not seeing that one? Where are you seeing from? Even to come to the answer, I don't know, is perfection. Because to not know brings you to not knowing. And to not know is to be outside of the mental conceptualizing and need to know. To just rest in not knowing. To just rest in not knowing. Resting in not knowing, resting in the being, resting as the presence of being that is simply alive, alive to its own presence, stillness, in true stillness, the recognition of stillness, the unmoving, unmovable. Only stillness can recognize stillness. Only silence can know silence. It's to recognize that which never ever moves and changes. To recognize that which does not come and go. To recognize that which is immovable in this moment. That which is immovable is awareness. And where awareness is, you are in truth. So the choice, be still, be here, be yourself. And when the pull of the mind comes, it is the resting here that watches and says, wow, that's the mind. No to that, yes to this. Just to watch. Can even watch, just like watching a movie. Can watch. Look at what the character is thinking. Can see it without the attention going towards and identifying. And this is the most important part, is where attention can wander and identify. And the learned habit is to identify. So it is to unlearn the habit to identify and allow attention to just rest. And let's say, allow attention to return to its naturalness, resting in its own nature. When attention returns to its naturalness and rests in its own essence nature, the mind stops. What happens to the mind is that it is resting in its own nature. When attention is resting, there is no mental activity. When the attention wanders and identifies, it creates a dialogue with itself. That's the chatter. That's the chatty one, the one that won't shut up. So, it is just to watch that one. We're not even saying to start with that one's going to shut up straight away. It is just to watch the chatter and recognize I'm watching the chatter. In truth, the true being is watching the chatter. There's no judgment or opinion. There's compassion, there's love, there's a seeing of the innocence of it. But the more there is a resting, let's say when awareness is attention, is just watching even, there's still a subtle attachment. But the deeper that there's a resting, the attention disengages and drops into the silence of being. And when attention rests, drops into itself, into the silence of being, into the depth of stillness, mental activity stops. Phew. Freedom. The mind is absorbed in the self. The mind is absorbed into the self. Consciousness is absorbed into its purity, right? The moving, changing flow of consciousness, it settles like moving water, choppy water, rippling water. It settles, becomes still. And when the moving water is still and consciousness is still, it creates a mirror for awareness to see itself, for the divine remembering. The self seeing itself in the mirror, seeing its own reflection. And as the self sees itself, let's say the reflection dissolves into the oneness of recognition. Let's say duality disappears into oneness. The remembering, the sense of separation, the illusion of separation disappears. And once it has disappeared and been seen through. It cannot be believed in again. And so then there's the seeing of the play of the world from a different perspective. There are some that are already seeing the world from this different perspective. It doesn't mean that the refinement process stops, it goes on. There's a process still of refinement, refining everything into unity, refining everything into an even deeper knowing of oneness. But at some point, that unity completes itself. It falls all the way into itself, and it knows itself before everything. So there is refinement, maturing and deepening that happens. And this is where, if it seems like there is a choice, the choice is what in this moment, if it feels like there's a choice, what in this moment takes you closer to yourself? It is to stop, to be still and watch, to come to being, come to remembering, come to the knowing of who you truly are. The only choice, to stop, zip it up, stop the chatter, watch the chatter, don't engage with it. Rest as the openness. It's natural. Allow any sensations and feelings in the field to unravel. Feel the deep willingness to allow the unraveling to happen, the dismantling to happen, the humbling. And recognize that which you are, the stillness, the being that is untouched, untainted in any way. Recognize and confirm in your direct experience, this is who I am. Feel the aliveness of the knowing. The aliveness of the knowing is what carries you deeper. The simplicity, the stillness, the silence. Pure, immaculate being that you are, the one self that just is. To come to this resonance, the deep attunement, you notice that it is a spontaneous falling into yourself. 1 minute you can be immersed in mind and the chatter, and then silence. How did you get here? You see, you didn't do anything with the mind. You just attuned with the being. You just fell into yourself. It's not that the mind isn't close by like a super friendly companion ready to start chatting again at any given opportunity. As soon as there's attention that wanders, the chatter will resume, no problem, right? It's just to watch, just to explore. Be an intrepid explorer of your own consciousness. Watch how it all works. Keep the power with yourself. Keep the power with the being. Keep the power here now. So to give the power away, we're not speaking in a new age way of giving the power away. We're speaking about to give the power away is to identify with the story. You're giving the power to an illusion. You're giving power to the mind. And the mind thinks, ooh, now I'm the master. Now I'm the master. But be in reality where the mind is not the master, where the master just is Ma, the Ma. The true master. We can play with words, but it's no mistake. Everything is arising from one divinity. Everything is one divinity. The way that everything is dancing on the surface, it is about following it all back to its source, finding out where does it come from. And when there is an intrepid explorer that is absolutely intent, devotedly, earnestly, sincerely committed to knowing where does all this come from, you will be carried through the layers of your own consciousness, ever refining, ever deepening, ever maturing. You will be carried into finer and finer realms of the knowing. But even the first sense of knowing is freedom. It's the taste of freedom, and not to be underestimated. The first taste of freedom that frees you from personhood, that frees you from the illusion of separation. It's the biggest, most important, because it ends suffering and it ends seeking. Yes, the process goes on. It goes on and it goes on. It goes on and it goes on. It never stops. It's a divine adventure that does not end, right? It's an infinite, eternal unraveling into the divine realms. It's incredibly beautiful. But the first clear seeing, to see through the illusion of separation, to see through the idea of being a separate person, is the first freedom. The first freedom is to know yourself as emptiness, to know yourself as the equanimity, to know yourself as you truly are. And then everything that unfolds is unfolding within the realm of consciousness. It's no longer happening to someone. It's no longer someone's spiritual journey. It's the unraveling of consciousness within itself. It's an incredible adventure into the deepest realms of your own divine nature. So here we're speaking to all of these layers simultaneously. That's the beauty. That's the beauty. And it's not about holding a position. It's not about holding a position. Let us say, even if we are speaking the most simple truth, the guidance, the coaxing of love out of personhood, even ones that have already recognized this and are in the refinement, unraveling and deepening, even then, in truth, there's still like an alertness. It's ever fresh, this truth. You're always hearing it as if it's never been heard before, because there's an attunement, and wherever you are open to, the aliveness of the resonance attunes you to however deeply you have opened, right? And you just keep flowering and blossoming. And then as you flower and blossom where you are living in the phases of refinement and unity, You are holding in great service the resonance of wholeness for the ones that are still to pop the balloon of illusion, of separation, right? So there's this grace where we're all in service to each other. We're all in service to the one, to the whole, to the divine. We're all vehicles of service in the flow of grace, in the flow of grace. Every being is exactly, perfectly where they need to be. But let there be a humble prayer. Let there be a humble prayer. The prayer of the openness that just constantly invites for everything to be undone, so that the greatest clarity can be lived, so that the knowing of the self all the way through, shining, can be lived, can be known. A constant attunement with the being, a constant saying yes, wholeheartedly, to live this. Will bring you to your knees every time. It's as if you breathe it all the way in and you take it as far in, as far deep as you can take it. You breathe it in. You take it right back to the source. You take it right back as far as you can take it, right? You take it all the way in, all the way back. And as you breathe it in and you take it all the way back, you feel the truth. You feel the resonance. As you breathe it in and you take it all the way back, you meet the grace that is waiting for you. This is the beauty. You breathe it in, the humble prayer, you take it right in. The sincerity, the depth, the willingness to be undone again and again and again. Utter devotion. When it is so sincere, it's as if you breathe it in and you take it right to its edge. And at the edge, you meet the source, you meet that support, right? You meet what happens at the point of surrender. When you give everything to that. You meet, it's not even an edge, but you meet as far as you can go into yourself. And as far as you go into yourself, you are met with the source. You are met with stillness. You are met with silence. You are met at that point of surrender where there's no one surrendering. You meet a point that is a stop, where there's just the collapse of any kind of patterning. You meet the collapse of all humanness, all holding on, all protection, all defense. You meet the collapse of all patterning, and you fall into yourself. You fall into yourself. This is why it is so often in challenge and disappointment, the things that play in life that dismantle us, bring us to grace, because as we are collapsed, it takes away our sense of hope. Hooray! Because then there's no one hoping for something for the me. In true disappointment, we don't meet what the mind imagines is at the bottom of disappointment. In true disappointment, we meet surrender. We meet that which is always here. We meet that which remains. We meet the love that survives it all, that cannot be touched in any way. We meet the being that just is. And that is the grace of the hardships of life. When you find yourself broken into what feel like a million pieces on the floor, all of that space is the infinite spaciousness of your true nature. So can we pray for that depth of brokenness to be revealed, where we're not trying to hold it all together with all these band-aids of conditioning and habit, where we're not trying to hold it all together, where we can allow the illusion and all of the patterns of protection, the armoring, to just break apart. Because when everything breaks apart, the light can get in, as the master of poetry shared with us, Leonard Cohen. The cracks are where the light gets in, right? You just have to know this. You just have to know this. That in the brokenness, the disappointment, when everything feels like it's falling apart, you find that which doesn't fall apart. You find that which is immovable, invincible, unshakable, undisturbable. You find the truth of who you are underneath the body that can break and go wrong, the mind that can create all kinds of craziness and disturbance. You find out you are not that mind, that story. You are not the body. You are not your ailments or diseases. You are pure before it all. You are the eternal, timeless. And at the bottom of disappointment is surrender. At the bottom of disappointment is the timeless, eternal self, which always is. Let the prayer be so deep. Let the devotion, the willingness to be humble, be so deep that you can breathe it all the way in until it bursts. It bursts any holding of position. It bursts, cracks through any protection. That you are broken open. You are not broken in the way the mind imagines. What does the mind call that? Broken-hearted. No, you are being broken open to discover the true infinite heart that is ever open. Broken-heartedness, just another form of disappointment, just another form of grace. When the heart is truly cracked open, it reveals what is true. It reveals what is not real, and it reveals what is real. Oh, there's so much disappointment in humanness. Of that you can be sure. The whole human condition is utter disappointment. It's a divine tragedy and a divine comedy at the same time. But it doesn't have to be a tragedy if you're not embroiled and identified with it. You see it. You see it with the eye of compassion. You see it with the full perspective view of the innocence that it all is. And you allow that innocence to come so deeply home to its true nature, right? You come for that innocence that has been misguided, innocently misguided into patterns that play as separation. You let that innocence let go of all of its protection to come to the glory of innocence, the glory that innocence is, the glory that is the purity and immaculate, untouched nature. You come back to the true innocence of that which has never ever been touched or tainted. It matters not what kind of life has been lived. It is to know that every human life is a balance of challenge and happiness. Every life has a balance. You cannot ever measure another being's life. Every human life has its balance. But it is to be before this as just the aliveness of life, that is utterly innocent. It is a divine flow of grace that is utterly innocent. And then the knowing is that this divine flow of grace that is utterly innocent, it's animating that whole crazy world out there, right? You're seeing it from a different perspective. You're not identified and engaged and challenged and suffering in that crazy world. You're seeing it for what it is. You're free from it. You're completely free. So much of it doesn't even come into your vista, let's say, but kindly companions will bring certain parts of it into the vista. And when it does, you just feel the upwelling of divine compassion, but you know that there is only the self. And whatever is playing, it's only the self. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing out of place. That the self is only moving to remove ignorance, remove arrogance, and have this truth be known all the way through. So whatever's playing in the craziness of the world, it's in the process of awakening to itself. Great glory. But if you are in the knowing of awakeness, you are not embroiled in that nutty show, right? It's just a movie. It's just a movie. The stillness, the silence, the simplicity of being. To recognize that when you are here resting in the simplicity, can be aware of the movements of mind and thoughts. But if you are resting deeply enough, there will not be any of that. The mind is absorbed in the self. The mind finds its true nature. And let's say then the functioning is of pure mind, where insight comes. It's a pure mind. It's a clear mind. It's just the flow of the self. It's not creating separation. It's just the aliveness of wholeness. It's just the self knowing itself. And it just moves within itself, as itself, exactly as is needed. But it knows there's only the self. We could also say love. It's just love, just love, just being love, moving as love, loving itself. Mm. Mm. So as these words come, it is to feel where you feel the resonance, where there is a recognition. Yes, there can be the revealing and the bringing forward of certain patterns, but it's not to even let the mind get involved with trying to understand. There's no work to do, there's no list to make, no to-do list. Let's make a pact. No more of those to-do lists. Every human, stop the to-do lists, stop the self-improvement program, and just be here. Make the choice to know yourself, to stop, be quiet, just watch. Rest is the openness. Watch the show. Be still. Be yourself. Be the being, just watching. Recognize that the being has no comment. Being is just simply here, reveling in itself. Awareness of the being is aware of what is moving and changing. But the confirmation in your direct experience is of being the being that is not touched by whatever is happening. And if there is a feeling of aliveness, of energy, consciousness, movement in the field, it's just to meet the movement in the field, just to meet the aliveness of sensation. To start with, you'll feel it as what feels like your nervous system. It could feel like it's inside the body, the nervous system. The more that you become finely tuned to feeling the sensation, it will feel like it's everywhere. It's just a field. There's aliveness. If there's disturbance, if there's discordant movement in the field, it's just to be with it, however funky it feels, not to evaluate or interpret, not to create moods out of it, just to be aware. By being aware, you are holding a space of neutrality. You're allowing the aliveness to diffuse into neutrality. It's like allowing the bomb to diffuse, right? If the mind gets hold of the bomb, it goes off. But if you just allow the energy to just diffuse into neutrality, no bomb, no worries, no problem, right? So everything just settles into the being. And this is the process of refining and refining and refining, humbling away, humbling away, humbling away. It's not even to make a project of this. It's just to be watching as it's happening, because it is. It's always happening. Oh, the joys of unraveling the human condition into beingness. Let it be fun. Let it be an adventure. When you are resting in true nature, it's just an adventure. It's an adventure for the intrepid exploration of your own consciousness into the glory, into the glory. Just keep the gaze on the divine light, right? Just keep being dazzled by the shining glory of your own self, by the shining glory of your own being. Be dazzled, be dazzled, be blinded to the craziness of the worldly play, and see only the light of truth. You see only the light of truth anywhere, everywhere, whatever's happening. You see only yourself. shining, shining. Be constantly dazzled because your focus is the self focused upon itself that dissolves all story and illusion, all craziness. It's dissolved into the dazzling brilliance of reality. Reality is yourself. Reality is this moment, just as it is. Be dazzled by the shining, shining glory of your true nature. Look in the true mirror, right? So you can look in the mirror of the play of the world to find out about the funky parts, or you can look in the mirror and see your dazzling, shining self. But if you look in the mirror and you see something funky, it's not to try to get away from it, but fall into yourself and get so dazzled by your true nature that even if you can see what's happening on the surface, you're so dazzled by your true nature that you're not bothered, right? You're not bothered. Nothing matters. It's the great secret. Nothing matters. So in this moment, feel the stillness. Recognize the stillness never ever changes. That which is moving and changing, it's like an overlay. The stillness never ever stops being still. Just like the sky never stops being the sky. Even if weather patterns, clouds, rain, tornadoes, hurricanes, right? Snow, hail, it doesn't matter. The sky is always just the infinite sky. The stillness never ever stops being still. The silence has no opposite. The silence doesn't get noisy. Silence is always silent. And this is what we are coming to confirm. You are the silence. True nature is you are the silence. You are the stillness. You're not someone that's aware of silence or aware of stillness. No. Where the recognition of silence is, of stillness is, it's because this is what you are. So we could say the same of awareness. Where there's an awareness of awareness, it's because you are awareness. You're not someone that's aware of awareness. No, don't give it away. It's so close. It's more intimate than that. It's immediate, right? So this is never touched. Your true nature is never touched, never has been touched. And in this vastness, the dance goes on. But it is an overlay. It's overlaid. We're speaking of what sometimes gets called the substratum as the stillness, right? It's the deep, it's the essence, it's the immovable source of everything. And to follow everything back to where does it come from? Where does it come from? Come to the I don't know. And here you are as the presence, as the stillness. Follow everything back and you will always come to stillness. Always come to presence. To the silence, the stillness, simplicity. It just is. And when you feel the revelation of the glory that is this truth, it is just to confirm in your direct experience. And as you confirm in your direct experience, recognize the knowing. Recognizing the knowing is where there is the drinking in of the nectar that I speak of. You drink in the nectar by confirming in your direct experience the knowing, the truth, the resonance, the aliveness. This. It's so immediate. It's not someone doing something or confirming something. It's an immediate, it's direct experience. It's unquestionable. The knowing is alive. And then drink it in by just really recognizing, reveling in it, cherishing it, falling in. Just by feeling how fabulous it is. Just feel the happiness. Just feel the joy. This is drinking in the nectar. Feel the joy, the happiness, the contentedness, the bliss, the simplicity. Just to feel the celebration that is here. Feel the emptiness. Feel the peace that's not disturbable, the emptiness that has a fullness in the knowing of what is true. There's awe, there's wonder. Just be in the celebration, whichever way devotion is here. Right? We're speaking of essence nature. To revel in it is to go deeper in, right? Reveling in it carries it deeper, opens it up more, brings more of the flower petals to open and blossom. To revel in it, it's like nourishing it with sun and water, fertilizing, right? It's nourishing it, drinking in the nectar of your own knowing, and it's opening the flower of your realization more fully. And as the flower opens, all that can be seen is this radiant light of knowing, this brilliance, this radiant light. It's all you can see. And the fragrance of the flower is this all-encompassing love. And you are the love. You are the love. You are the light. You are the blossoming beauty of your own knowing. Right now. It's not in the future. It's not something to attain. It's not a goal. It's happening right now. You are a flower that is blossoming in God's garden. So it is just to keep drinking in the divine nourishment by focusing upon what is true and real and good with no opposite. Right? Fall into yourself, nourish yourself. So we started by saying, if you feel like you have a choice, but can you recognize that when we come to this truth, there's no choice. There's no choice. It's just to fall in. It's just to keep falling in, to keep falling in, to keep falling in. Be yourself. Be in this deep devotion to the self. Let it be a priority. Let it be all there is, and it will carry you into the blossoming and the blossoming and the blossoming. Mm. Mm. Thank you for being here. Mm. Namaste. Namaste, beautiful flowers in the garden. Mm. Mm.